Welcome, friends. Tonight I invite you to step into a world where love and darkness collide, where the shadows carry whispers of curses, and where sacrifice becomes the ultimate weapon against evil. This is the story of Nosferatu, 2024, Robert Eggers' hauntingly beautiful reimagining of the iconic vampire legend. Sit back, relax, and succumb to the darkness. Our story begins with a chilling introduction. A young woman named Ellen, played with ethereal beauty by Lily Rose Depp, calls out into the darkness of her room. Her voice trembles, a mix of desperation and longing. The stillness is shattered by a low, guttural voice, inhuman and ancient, replying to her plea.
You have awoken me from my eternal slumber.
The voice growls. The silhouette of an otherworldly entity dances behind the thin fabric of her drapes, blown by the cold night wind. The entity asks a single question.
Do you pledge yourself to me?
Without hesitation, Ellen, her voice shaking but resolute, whispers, "Yes." In that moment, Ellen's body convulses violently, her form seizing as though consumed by unseen forces. The screen fades to black, leaving only the sound of her labored breathing. The story leaps forward to 1838. Ellen now lives in the quaint German town of Wisborg. She has married Thomas Hutter, played by the ever-charming Nicholas Hoult, a young real estate agent eager to prove himself in his new job. Their love is palpable, and their life seems idyllic, but shadows linger. A plague sweeps through the streets, leaving bodies and whispers of doom in its wake. Ellen is having violent sleepwalking episodes and seizures that defy explanation. Her health deteriorates rapidly, and local Dr. Wilhelm Sievers, Ralph Ineson, grows deeply concerned. Yet Ellen's condition feels less like an ailment, and more like an unseen force pulling her closer to something sinister. On the eve of a business trip, Thomas tells Ellen he has been tasked with selling a remote castle owned by the enigmatic Count Orlok. Ellen's face pales at the news. She recounts a vivid dream from their wedding night, a dream where all the guests lay dead, and Death himself took her hand as her groom. Yet she confesses she had never felt so blissfully happy. The ominous nature of her vision casts a pall over their farewell. Thomas sets out on his journey to the Carpathian Mountains. As he ventures deeper into the countryside, the air grows colder, and the world around him feels suffused with an unearthly stillness. He reaches a remote village where the mere mention of Count Orlok's name sends the locals into a panic. Their warning is clear: the castle belongs to Death. That night, Thomas witnesses a macabre ritual in the woods. Villagers carry a young woman to a sarcophagus and stake the creature within. Their desperate chants echo through the forest, a haunting attempt to ward off a greater evil. The scene lingers in Thomas's mind as he presses on. The next day, a black carriage appears to take Thomas to Orlok's castle. The driver is shrouded in darkness, and the horse's breath fogs the cold air. The castle itself is a jagged silhouette against the sky, its spires clawing at the clouds like the talons of a beast. Inside the castle, Thomas meets Count Orlok, Bill Skarsgård. The Count is not the grotesque creature of old legends, but a pale, elegant figure with an unnerving presence. His voice is soft yet commanding, and he insists Thomas address him as
My lord.
Orlok's fascination with Ellen becomes immediately apparent when his gaze falls upon Thomas's locket, which holds a picture of her. The Count's expression shifts, his desire for Ellen unmistakable. That night, Thomas accidentally cuts his thumb, and Orlok's predatory nature emerges. He hungrily licks the blood, his eyes flashing with an unnatural hunger. Thomas begins to feel the weight of the darkness surrounding him. Over the next few days, Thomas grows weaker, plagued by strange dreams and a creeping realization of Orlok's true nature. Bite marks appear on his chest, confirming his worst fears. In the castle's crypt, Thomas discovers Orlok's sarcophagus, marked with occult symbols, including an inverted heptagram. Summoning his courage, he attempts to destroy Orlok, but the Count awakens with a guttural growl, his strength overwhelming. A desperate chase through the castle ensues, ending with Thomas leaping into the river below. He survives, battered and terrified, and begins his long journey back to Wisburg, knowing Ellen is in grave danger. As Thomas makes his way home, Orlok embarks on his own journey. Hidden within a crate of earth, the vampire travels aboard a ship bound for Wisburg. One by one, the crew succumbs to Orlok's hunger, their lifeless bodies left behind as the ship drifts into the town's harbor. With it come rats, carriers of a deadly plague that spreads rapidly, mirroring the Count's malevolent presence. Thomas finally returns home to find Ellen's condition worsening. She is racked with seizures and speaks in voices not her own, her body seemingly a battleground for Orlok's control. Ellen reveals that Orlok has haunted her since childhood, whispering promises of eternity and love in her dreams. Does evil come from within or from beyond? She asks, her voice trembling. Professor Alban von Franz, Willem Dafoe, an expert in the occult, determines that Ellen is the key to Orlok's power. Her connection to the Count is both a curse and a weapon. Von Franz devises a plan to end Orlok's reign, but it requires Ellen's willing sacrifice. Orlok appears to Ellen in her dreams, issuing a chilling ultimatum. She has 3 nights to pledge herself to him willingly, or he will destroy everything she loves. On the first night, Ellen awakens from a vivid nightmare to find Anna, her friend and caretaker, collapsed on the floor. Rats scurry around her body, a grotesque warning from Orlok. On the second night, Orlok escalates the horror by murdering Friedrich Harding's, Aaron Taylor Johnson children and his wife, Anna. In a heartbreaking scene, Friedrich is unable to protect his family, and he succumbs to grief, eventually dying from the plague, which now affects him as well. As the plague devastates the town, and the town's medical establishment resorts to restraining Ellen with physical violence to control her erratic behavior, Professor Alban von Franz becomes instrumental in devising a plan to destroy Orlok. While the rest of the town focuses on combating the plague with ineffective medical treatments, Franz and Ellen realize that the only way to destroy Orlok is through her own sacrificial act. Orlok cannot resist the lure of blood, and if Ellen gives herself to him willingly, it will be his undoing. However, Thomas, unaware of the full extent of Ellen's possession and the plan, is reluctant to let her sacrifice herself. He wants to protect her, but does not understand the supernatural forces at play. Ellen and von Franz keep their plan secret, knowing that Thomas would never agree to it. Ellen's decision to offer herself to Orlok is a tragic one. She is caught between 2 forms of possession, Orlok's vampiric embrace and the oppressive control of patriarchal society. She pledges herself to him willingly, and on the 3rd night he visits her, allowing him to feed on her as they lay together. But as dawn approaches, Orlok is overcome by the power of her sacrifice. The first rays of sunlight seep into the room. Orlok, bound to her and unable to resist, is destroyed by the sunlight. His body bursts into flames and disintegrates, a final testament to the power of light over darkness. Ellen dies from the bite marks on her neck, her life extinguished in the process of vanquishing the monster. As Orlok perishes, the plague that has ravaged Wisburg comes to an end. The townspeople, unaware of the true cause of the terror, are left to mourn the many lives lost, away. Thomas arrives just in time to hold Ellen in her final moments. Her sacrifice lifts the plague and ends Orlok's reign, but the cost is unimaginable. Von Franz reflects on Ellen's bravery, her final words echoing in the silence. She has no master and no mistress. Her sacrifice was more than an act of heroism. It was a rejection of both Orlok's supernatural domination and the societal chains that sought to bind her. As Wisburg begins to heal, Thomas is left to mourn the woman who saved them all, her courage etched into the town's history forever. Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey. Until next time, may your dreams remain undisturbed, and may the shadows never linger too close. If you feel we have a connection, make sure to like and subscribe, or else the count of this story may haunt you too.